from, you know, the fine arts folks to people in science. Where would I have an opportunity to sit down and learn about what they do, what their research is about? So that's probably what I like most, is just meeting people that I wouldn't normally meet. Government as well, you're dealing at a very high level with mayors and politicians and CEOs of companies, and you just get to listen to them because they don't get to be where they are today without being, you know, pretty bright. So that's exciting, and I feed off of that, and I learn from that, and the other thing that I want to say here is that the networking and the connections that you make will serve you for your entire career. So just because you're on LinkedIn, don't be afraid to link in with a CEO or someone much higher in profile than you, because that will serve you well in your networking when you're looking for work. In terms of challenges, I guess the writing has always been a challenge for me. I don't know how many of you are really stellar writers, but I know, yes, you can't go into this field without knowing how to write. That would be the first thing, even for looking for someone in the events area. I need someone to write, especially business communications, emails, put together a good email, simple, clear, all that good stuff. But I think writing, because if you don't go to school for journalism or writing per se, or creative writing or screenwriting, it's not something that just comes naturally to me. So it's hard. My boss expects me, you know, to write a press release in 5 minutes. I need to, you know, to be more thoughtful about it, do some research, and think about what the strategic key messages are and all those good things that you probably all learn in school. So that to me is the most challenging.
Okay, thank you. Robin, can you identify what you find most enjoyable about your work and what you find most challenging?
I don't think there's much about my work that I don't love. I have the sort of opposite dynamic in the workplace. I feel like I have 2,000 bosses instead of having, because I'm sort of responsible to deal with their issues. And I think it's very similar with the chaplaincy. I mean, I'm called upon to respond to particular needs and services, and so the dynamic is slightly different, but than a lot of sort of corporate structures. But I think that the diversity of what I can come across in the course of a day is what keeps it fresh. And if you you know, even you might stumble sometimes, but if you follow the path that you sort of feel that you're destined for, then, you know, you'll always keep going in the right direction, even if you have a few falters along the way. I think that the things that I find most challenging about what I'm doing is there's not so much with the chaplaincy, because that seems to be, for the most part, dealing with celebration, and for the most part it's a feel good occupation. But with dealing with today's economic climate and the sort of anti-labor sort of sentiment, that to find that constant sort of inspiration to work, to move forward, and I find with young people it's also a challenge. We have a working student center here at York University. We have a labor studies students association, so I do occasionally get to meet up with people who are looking for careers in that direction, and that's where I get some joy in mentoring those people. And I think the biggest thing for me has in writing and exposing myself that way has been to take those risks, you know, to take the risks of facing unpopular, you know, public opinion, or maybe not being the most mainstream, but still just following the vision that you feel you're destined for, and having faith in that. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge, but it's also the most rewarding when you can live through the day and feel like you've accomplished something.
Okay, thank you. Leia?
I think that Ruth call attention to something that has a lot to do with what I find interesting in my current position and in communications at large. It's one of the fields in which you are in a strategic position, in which you're going to have access to very interesting people for real. Because the bottom line is, you're going to work for the vice president, for the CEO, for the manager, in the sense that you are trying to do your best to sell, in some extent, your company, the person that you are working for. And I had a very meaningful experience when it was my first real job in communications, and my boss was amazing. And he was a director of I was working for an environment institution. And it was a wonderful mentor that I had in my life. So I think that communications, it's an amazing it sounds like that you have a unique opportunity to be around very interesting people. And if you know how to take advantage of that, it becomes a meaningful opportunity for real. Like you're going to be surrounded by interesting people. Besides the fact that I have access to those people, I think I love being around people. And communication is all about meeting new people, communicating, learning, and sharing. That's all about communication. So if you like sharing things, if you like learning new things every day in your life, you are at the right spot. And there's something else that I love about communications. It's writing. It's like, it's put your thoughts out there. It's spreading the word. And that's what it is amazing. I get a little bit even emotional when I see Robin talking about her passion. That's, it's, in some extent, she's putting her seed every day out there, trying to make change, trying to make people a little bit more understanding towards the complex issues. So that's our main, we are always carrying on some certain degree of message as a communicator for a company, for organization, for anybody else. In terms of challenging, I find that, I wouldn't say that's challenging, but sometimes we work with very strict deadlines. And I'm talking about very strict. Last week I had a very good experience that we had a proposal to hand it in for a company. And the proposal we had to upload the information, like PDF, heavy PDF online. And it was midday. And then when you go to the website, I knew the website already. I had been there. It's like 11:59, 11:59:01. And then I kind of had some fun because we uploaded it was 11:50 something, and last minute. And then after 12, I went back. The site wasn't available. So, in the sense that there is no funny. If you don't if you don't upload the document at the right time, you're out of the business. Yeah. So it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes you have issues to upload. Sometimes you have issues with the engineers to get the information on time. So, but that's not, it's part of the game. That's it.
So you didn't get it. I'm like hanging on to you.
11:50 something.
Oh, you got it through. Okay, good. That's good. It was a happy ending. Good. Thank you. So I think now we'll start taking some questions from the floor. If anybody has any questions, raise your hands. I'll ask you to stand up. I will repeat the question for the sake of our camera. We are videotaping the session. And I'll just repeat it for everyone to hear as well. You have a question?
Yeah, this is for Leia. My name is Saeed. Upon your graduation from your undergraduate degree, what were some of the challenges you overcame? And what were the strategies you implemented that helped you overcome them?
Okay, so specifically just for Leia?
Yeah.
Okay. So after graduation, what were some of the challenges that she faced, and then how did she overcome those challenges? Strategies for overcoming those challenges. Great question.
That's a very good one, actually. Let's put it this way. It's a specific situation, but I find that everybody's going to learn in some extent from that. I did my undergrad in Brazil and my master's degree here at York. So we don't understand the power of networking until we don't have it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We think that we don't need it until you are in a country that is, we are not, we are not born there, and you don't know anyone, and you don't know even how to start the process of looking for a job. So although I was working before finishing my master's degree, I didn't have clue how to start. And then I think that's a very interesting experience. How did I learn how did I get this job? I figured out that at some point someone told me, actually it was at the career center. I had I had a very good experience at the career center. They advised me, the first thing was, 80% of your job opportunities are hidden. So if 80% of your job opportunities are hidden, you should take 80% of your time with doing networking. Or how, it doesn't make sense. If 80% is reading, you should take 80% of your time to do networking. So that's how I start doing networking after this Career Center panel. And by the end of it, funny enough, at the day that I had my convocation at York University, I had my first day at work. So it was a very meaningful milestone. And how did I overcome that? I started to play around with LinkedIn. And LinkedIn was a very, people don't take too seriously sometimes because they don't know how powerful is that source. But the bottom line is I met someone in a fair that I was working there for one day as a volunteer. And I had my MA candidate business card from York University. We talked. I gave it to him. By the end of the time that we talked briefly, I wasn't looking for a job. I was looking for a conversation. I was there to talk to someone that seemed interesting. I want to learn from him. And I listened to him. I let him talk about himself, the fact that he became a vice president of a very good company, that at that point it was SNC-Lavalin, and I have no clue what it was SNC-Lavalin at that point. I'm not from here. So bottom line, we exchange cards. I add him right away on LinkedIn so he doesn't forget my face. And we keep in touch. And then at some point, I call him and said, I sent him a message and said, by chance, could you find someone to have an information interview with me? And I tell you later what's happened from that. But the bottom line is, from that experience, we kept in touch. And then I told him, by chance, do you have time to look for someone to be did you have time to talk to me? Leia, I forgot about that, but I'm gonna get back to you. 10 days later, he got back to me. I met this person. It wasn't the job opportunity. But from that point on, I met who today is my manager. So, networking.
Can I add to that? I know Leia from the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and do you feel her passion and her energy? You've got to be hungry for, if you want to be in communications, you want to do what she does, or want to do what any of us do, I give her a lot of credit, because when I saw that she had that job through LinkedIn, this is a huge company that she's working for. It's a major Canadian company. Congratulations, really, you deserve it.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Naya, and I'm actually a recent graduate from York. I majored in international relations, and I'm actually currently working as an event coordinator for a non-for-profit organization. And I'm working for a non-for-profit organization that focuses on Canadian manufacturing. So I guess it's kind of related to what you all have been saying about passion and about finding something that interests you. And it's something that actually Edward mentioned about not being bored. And I find that the event planning part I love. It's just the manufacturing part I have no interest in whatsoever because I just don't get it and it's not what I studied. So, and I know international relations, I did my honors in it. I didn't master in anything. So it's a really broad topic, and I don't know if anyone here is having the same situation with just a simple just a graduate diploma. But I guess my trouble now that I am working full time, how do I narrow down, I have interest in many things, and I'm working in a sort of position that I am interested in, I just don't know how do I narrow down, and how do I find a job in something that I'm really passionate about. And I guess, I don't know, my question.
So the question is, and I think this probably relates to a lot of students here, you're graduating, or you will be graduating with a broad-based degree with many skills that you've developed through your degree. How do you really focus your skills and your expertise and your interests to find something that you feel really passionate about and you're really good about, good at, and want to do for years? So do you want to address all of the panelists or any specific?
Yeah.
Okay. Edward, would you like to start?
Sure.
Put you on the spot.
Well, when I started, I didn't have a degree. I had a high school diploma. I had a little bit of college. I just got married, and I had to find work. So it's a matter of Okay, I know I can write. I know I can write really well. I have technical skills and abilities, so I wasn't thinking of, I want to be a tech writer or write software manuals or something, but it was a practical way to get in. So I use that as my entry point to get in the business and start learning the skills and doing the networking to find out other opportunities of exploration where I could try my skills or make a living in something else. And I guess what it comes down to is you have to keep at it to find out what you like. Sometimes what you like isn't what you find you like isn't what you thought you'd like. Sometimes what you're working at, what you like now, you won't like a year from now because circumstances change. Sometimes you do what you like, but the economy changes and forces you to do something else. So while I think what you have to be passionate is about writing, is about communicating, and what it is doesn't really matter. Now you can have that sphere. Yours is international relations. There's a lot of opportunity within that, and you can move, laterally within that, and there's a lot of room to play. But what are you going to do if suddenly, just for a while, you can't do that? What else do you love to do? And is there any way that I can connect international relations to something more local, community relations, university relations, relations at a large corporation? Large corporations have international scope. Maybe that's, it's not nonprofit, it's the profit sector. Maybe you have to go into that for a bit. So always try and keep your heart and passion of the area and discipline you want in, and keep that as near to you, but always be aware that you're going to have to shift around a little bit to find where you can make your nest, but also be aware that nest is sometimes, you can make a nest of concrete and stay there your entire life. That's fine. But sometimes the nest is made of twigs, and you get shaken out of the tree. Economies collapse and shift and move. We're in more of a knowledge economy now. So when I started, there was a lot of manufacturing still. Now there's not so much manufacturing. It's more software and knowledge-based things. So I had to shift as a writer from working on those kinds of things to something that was where the growth path was going. I started pre-internet. There was nothing online to deal with. Everything was done by hand. Some of it was done on desktop computers. But when the internet came, I thought, "Ooh, this is really interesting. I want to try this out. It seems like an interesting opportunity." So I started to delve into that, explore new things, because the opportunities were there. I need a website. I need a web presence. I didn't know anything about it any more than anyone else did. But through my networks, I knew somebody else was doing it, was completely swamped, needed more help, and then I learned and mastered it, so I could grow and survive in the next thing and find out, ooh, I really like this. This is really cool. I want to do this for at least quite a while yet. And I still do with my job now, but not in the way I did about 10 years ago.
Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to point out that Dr. Allan Bonner has joined us. We'll give you a few minutes to settle in and then come back to you. Ruth, would you like to address the question about how do you...
I'll just address, yeah, sure. I'll just address it really quickly. I would just ask you why you took the job in the first place. You can think about that. The other thing is, depending on where you're at and in your financial situation, sometimes you, like Ed was saying, you have to take something just to have something. But you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, what do I really like to do? Like, okay, if you like events, you could work at a university and do events and maybe do international events. So maybe you travel a bit, and combine it that way. But really hone in on what you love and really try and target that and go for it. And don't settle for working at a manufacturing association, Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it is, it's not that exciting. So good luck.
I think what Leia was talking about in networking and connecting with people who have a shared vision, I think, is one of the most important elements. As I'm listening to people talking, I'm trying to think when the last time I ever applied for a job, and I can't remember when that was, because through the networking that I've done from the time I was a teenager, things presented themselves. So I was offered a job in working in labor, and then that led to, through my social activism, into applying for this position as a chaplain, and then I was invited to run for office in the union. And all of that networking has somehow made a full life. And almost every single aspect of my life has come through through connections with other people and organizations that I worked with. The weddings are a perfect example. I mean, most of the weddings I do are people who've been referred through other weddings I've done. My dad, and writing through and connected through all that is the capacity to write a ceremony, to write a bargaining proposal, to write something that has to do with dispute resolution in my labor work. And my dad likes to say that I can marry a bury and write both ceremonies. So, so it's all, so much has to do with being in a place where you're always moving forward from, and recognizing those opportunities as they present themselves.
Leia?
I just would like to add two things that in some extent everybody talked a little bit already, just to wrap up. First of all, I used to think that networking was something that in some extent would decrease my credibility. When I was like, fun is when you apply for a job, go to 10,000 interviews. And then after I figure out, if you receive a job offer, it means that someone trusts you. Mm-hmm. It means that there is credibility. That's exactly what it is. It means that you have credibility. People trust at the point that they're going to give their name to say about you. They're going to say, listen, I know this person good. So there's something more behind that. We identify with people in terms of, culturally speaking, when you are talking to people, identify where they come from, what kind of level of education they have, what kind of principles they carry on. So isn't it? So network, it's a little bit beyond just give a name. There's something behind that. So just keep this in mind. Another thing is, I find that sometimes we make a huge mistake as communicators that we don't specialize ourselves. And what I mean by by being a generalist, we are specializing something. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is that you have studied international relations. So it's a niche already. Mm-hmm. As they have pointed, it's an area of expertise that you have developed. So Ruth brought a very interesting thing. It's like, okay, so don't get a job that doesn't fit you. In the sense that you have much more potential there. You are a curious person, you are a politicized person. Mm-hmm. So you should be in an environment that in some extent you're going to use these skills. Yeah. So from this point on, what I advise you is go back to your roots. Mm-hmm. Like go back to where you belong to.
Yeah. Dr. Bonner, which I'm not sure if you'd like to, so the question was, you know, for many students, they've graduated with a broad-based degree. How do you figure out how to apply your skills, or where to apply your skills, and where you be the best fit in terms of communications?
Well, first of all, on behalf of Google Maps that is convinced that I can get here in 33 minutes from Sydney, I extend sincere apologies. I knew I couldn't, but I made a dispassionate decision that is actually, in a way, on topic. I've been at my little business for 25 years, and I sort of smiled when you said you got into it before the web. I got into it before computers. And film, you know, I used to use film. And for those of you who don't know, it's a celluloid thing with little sprockets and images on it and so on. So things do evolve. This morning I began in my little company with a conference call to the UK, and it's very interesting to see the different cultural things, even within a sphere where we think we speak the same language and so on. And we're planning an event, and then, you know, the usual stuff that you do running a little company, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's the CTV program Power Play with Don Martin that wanted me to go on and talk about Rick Perry. So I thought, well, this is a good idea, and I talked them into doing it, taping it, because I said I have to be at York University at this event, and it takes so long to get there, and Google Maps says this, and all that stuff. So I was there 20 minutes early at 3:30, and we were supposed to tape at 10 to 4 and be gone at 4:10, and that gave me an extra 10 minutes to get here. And they had some sort of problems and what have you. But anyway, we taped it, and according to my wife, I was better than the other person who was on. She just called me and told me that. And I thought, after being married for a long time, that's pretty good. So that's she usually sides with the other people. Now, I was further delayed by accidents and goodness knows what, and then I tried to get directions here. Now, I went to York University, but I didn't know where it was when I went here, and I still don't know really where it is or how to get around. And so I was yelling "excuse me" at the people with the earbuds who couldn't hear me, and who were, looking at their own abs to make sure they were fit, which is my commentary on modern, technology. So then I began saying, "Excuse me" to anyone who doesn't have earbuds in. Where is Atkinson? And I got directed to Accolade. And, do you want east or west? And I said, I'll take any of them as long as I can get into the building. Okay, and I got a tweet. Hold on, just to show you I'm up to date. I got a tweet saying, my media hero, Allan Bonner, just saw my media hero, Allan Bonner on Power Play. And that's from a former New Brunswick Cabinet Minister, Jack Keir, who was in charge of buying NB Power, which destroyed the Liberal Party in New Brunswick. And so I have now people who have nothing better to do than watch TV as my network. Okay. So with that, I was gonna further say, what is this group and what was the question? I think we live in extremely challenging times. I mean, the first thing I would do is say, is this group sort of 60% women or 70% women? I mean, I know according to Kinsey you can't really be sure, but I think that it is very easy for many of these occupations to become ghettoized, whichever gender you are, and communication is one of them. In my time, it was young women joined the sociology faculty, and it was a factory too, in order to save the world, and now it's international relations, and what are these fields? It's a whole bunch of mush, and off you go, and see if you can make something of it. So I think the first thing I would say, I think echoing my fellow panelist, is stay current and progress, and don't be ghettoized, whether you're a young man or a young woman. And young men now have it worse than young women. I've lived long enough to see we need affirmative action programs for young men who are in not great shape in the self-esteem and other areas. So I would say, don't allow yourself to be ghettoized. Study something else. Keep progressing. And don't allow the other departments within a company or the other companies to assume that you just kind of get brought in at the end. And that's traditionally what happens with communication. And I'm very wary of that. I've supervised a couple of master's degrees at Royal Roads University, and they have been women, and I've said get into something that is male-dominated, oil, chemicals, the military, mining, something along those lines, just to be unusual in your resume. I heard people talking about do what you're passionate about and what you love. Well, as someone who had no discernible marketable skills when I was an undergraduate, I was very happy to find the campus radio station and work in that for a while. And as my wife jokes, I graduated from university with both a degree, not a very good one, mind you, it was at another university, but I did get a degree, I did get through, and an unofficial community college certificate in radio. So I found out that writing and speaking, someone would pay me for writing and speaking. Not very much, mind you, but I could get paid doing that. But I knew that that was a ghetto position too. I wouldn't have had the day I had today, 40 years after I began, if I hadn't have kept trying to progress and upgrading my education, because people of my age are just retired. They're gone, and I didn't want that fate to befall me. So I think a little bit of do stuff that you don't want to do is not a bad idea. Arrive early, stay late. There's someone doing a leadership seminar, and it's called Make the Coffee. When do you find out what the senior people are doing? It's first thing in the morning, it's last thing at night, it's on Saturday, it's when they're working. It's not 9:15 to 4:45. It isn't fun to, go to night school and, or travel or take on a job you don't want. But maybe a little bit of that pain right now will cause a longer and more profitable career later. And this is actually the subject of a new book by this guy, I forget whether it's the Earth is Flat guy, Friedman, or it's one of those other people, writes for the New York Times and puffs an idea full of air and turns it into a book. And he says America either has to go through 10 years of really real pain and hard work, or a century of it. Which is it going to be? And I understand that I'm late, babbling. I hope I'm in the right room. But just some contrary thinking there. And by the way, where are you from?
I'm from Toronto.
Okay. I mean, not having heard your question, but having been an ex-journalist, I'll just keep going. The world is your oyster. I mean, there are a dozen agencies in Geneva that would be happy to hire you. There's World Agricultural Federation in Rome. There's NATO in Paris. There's the Commonwealth. So, you can broaden your horizons. Thank you for listening. Sorry for taking so long, but I wanted to
Thank
properly
you.
apologize.
Thank you very much for being here as well. So I think to summarize some of the points that were shared, if you are trying to figure out at this point what you can do with your degree or where you want to go upon graduation, what career would be best fit for you, do some networking, talk to people, talk to as many people as you can, get a sense of what opportunities are out there, what other people are doing. Try out new things, so get involved, get experience, so anything that you can do to get experience, volunteer, internships, serve coffee or make coffee, whatever you need to do to gain more exposure to the field of communications and the breadth of opportunities that exist within the field. Keep yourself current, so keep learning, keep growing, keep reading, develop new skills, try out things that you have never tried out before. Follow your heart, things that you love, things that you're interested in, but also maybe try out things that you're not interested in, because you might surprise yourself. So I think and basically don't limit yourself.
Be fearless.
Be fearless? Okay. And be hungry. I think Ruth said that.
And may I just add one more thing? And go global. And I think Allan just touched on that. Like, this is the time in your life that you can work in another country and experience that. And to have global experience is something I have never done, and I wish I had. And who knows what's going to happen to me, but maybe I will. But just do that now, because I think it's very powerful on the resume, and it just serves you so well.
Dr. Bonner?
Well, it sounds like you're not wrapping up, are you?
No. Well, we're wrapping up that question.
Oh, okay, good. So I'll come back to this.
Okay.
Well, as a matter of fact, it's on this question, if I may, and I'm only taking these notes to know what I want to say. I'm not sending emails or something. There is a Harvard Business Review article out within the past 2 weeks, and it's called "Don't Send That Email, Pick Up the Phone." For a generation that prides itself in being able to network with 7 different types of technology, I find the people who want to go through the TASTE program with me, or want a job, or want an internship, or a ride-along, or an informational interview, the most unexpressive people I've ever encountered. I mean, I have better conversations with people in languages that I don't speak. Café negro? Si. Pick up the phone. It is astounding to me, and there's at least one person in the room who's had this experience with me, people want me to look at their resumes, bring them on as interns, do any number of things, but they don't want to talk to me. They want to do it all on the email. Not going to work with people of a certain generation. I mean, I don't know. Are you so young you don't want to talk to people on the phone?
No, I definitely want to talk to them on the phone.
I can't tell whether someone is qualified to be in the communication business if they won't speak to me on the phone. And well, enough.
Leia's dying to say something because she.
No, I'm truly dying. Sorry, guys. It's just because by chance I have been using Career Center as much as I can, and I got a mentor. That's something else that we needed. And my mentor was at the other corner of the table. It was Dr. Allan. Actually, I met him towards Taste. Take your student to eat, and he was the person. That's it. And he was the person who received me. I had an amazing evening with him. He took me to one of the best restaurants in the city. We had a wonderful time together. I learned a lot from him. He shared so many things about communications, about good music, good taste. We are communicators. Communicators should know a little bit of everything. And that's what he has given to me. And by the way, I'm living now 15 minutes from my work. I listen to your advice.
Oh, great.
Yes, among many other ones that he told me to look for. Get close, stay later, learn about monumentology, that's my field. I have been reading about it. I got 2 books, actually, from him, that it's there with me, and I'm taking slowly, step by step, reading about him. And I'm living very close to my work right now, so I'm always available to be there in service. So that's what it is. Take advantage of the opportunities, take advantage of the people, and find mentors.
So I think that's a great segue into doing the Career Center plug. So yes, so what I wanted to say was if you do have that question about what you can do with your degree or where you want to go from here, how do you focus your wide variety of interests, we have career counselors at the Career Center who can help you explore your options and make informed decisions. Okay. And if you need, once you've figured out the direction you want to head in, we also have advisors who can help you to get from where you are now to where you want to go. Okay. Also, so Leia mentioned our TASTE program, Take a Student to Eat. How many in the room know about TASTE? Okay, it's pretty good. For those of you who didn't put up your hand, we have postcards at the back. TASTE is an opportunity. It's a program where we match you up with an alumnus, who, so there's 2 students per alumnus. You go out and have lunch with that particular alumnus. So it's an alumnus who's working in a field you're interested in or an organization you're interested in. And basically, during the lunch, you pick their brain, you get advice, and you ask them questions, kind of like this, but in a more intimate setting, and ask them for advice, insights, learn from that. It's a great opportunity. Students who've been on the program really enjoy it. And we've got some great alumni who have signed up to participate in the TASTE program for the month of November. And we're still waiting for, we're still receiving applications or accepting applications for some of those lunches. So go onto our website and take a look. And just a variety of other services that we provide. So at the back, we also have our Career Center booklet. So if you haven't accessed any of our other services, make sure you pick one up. One of our, Julie's holding it up right now. Pick one of our booklets up, and it outlines all of our programs and services that you have access to for up to 2 years after graduation. And something that Leia was talking about, and some of the others were volunteering, getting involved. We have our volunteer fair next Thursday, all day, and there's some brochures at the back table as well. So that's my quick plug for the Career Center. Having said that, we have time for one last question from the floor. Gentleman at the back.
Hi everyone. I'm actually a graduate from the 2000 infamous batch of the strike. My name is Deepadya. I was actually an international student from Dubai. I graduated in June, was going to move to Australia, decided to come back here. For the past 18, 19 months I've been working with FedEx in a client support division. My double major at York actually was communication and professional writing. So what I'm doing now actually has not much to do with what I actually studied. I've actually come to that stage now that I feel that yes, I'm working for a big company, but I feel that I'm very stagnant in my position. So my question to the panel is, I'm sure the way it seems, everybody is here gone beyond the bachelor's. What or when did you decide that you want to go for that master's degree? And do you feel, for somebody who is, like she said, she's in a position now that she doesn't enjoy every facet of her job, and I'm man enough to admit that yes, I'm at that stage where I feel very stagnant. Yes, it's a lot of fun meeting different kind of clients, different people, but it really has nothing to do with my major. My actual passion was, so I'm trying to get back in the field that I left, or I never really got into. But yes, do you think masters, or when would you decide? What really, give you that persuasive sort of kick, if I may say so, to go for that higher education?
So the question is, do you need a master's? Do you need other credentials, designations to get into the field of, and do well in communications? Dr. Bonner?
I believe you asked when. I would have been 18 or 19. In a couple of business courses, I found that the last people to be laid off in the Great Depression, which my parents talked about at no end, as an object lesson. The last people to be laid off were teachers, because it looked as if, that was an investment in the future of society, so I got an education degree after my bachelor's degree. I read statistics that indicated that, this is probably 10 years old, but a person with high school makes 22, a person with university makes 28, master's degree 32. Master's degree trumps most undergraduate degrees, meaning a master's degree in almost anything trumps an undergraduate law degree, trumps an undergraduate engineering degree. So I made those dispassionate decisions, and I've run into people with education at my level, including doctorates, and it's served me well. I think, again, that's part of not being ghettoized. And it's not all that hard these days. I mean, the public policy in this jurisdiction is get people degrees, get transferable credits. There are excellent online universities, distance universities, part-time, etc. That's the history of this college is part-time adult education. So I would say, do it.
I would agree. I'd say it certainly can't hurt. It will certainly make things not necessarily easier, but it would probably open more doors of opportunity and give you more opportunities at certainly better paying or more responsible kinds of work. For me, that decision didn't come until just over a year ago. As I said earlier, I didn't even start my undergraduate degree until I was 40, and here 8 years later, I'm now finishing off my master's degree. I chose science and technology studies, which is a new discipline here at York, largely because it is a new discipline, but also it also fit my career path, which was in the high-tech sector. I understood a lot of high technology. I wrote a lot about high technology. I worked with high technology and the people involved in that space. So understanding that this was the only program of its kind in Canada, and that there are only about a dozen like it all around the world, it would end it's a growth sector that, given my career trajectory, wanting to get back into teaching, because some of my past has been in teaching and corporate training in the corporate sector, I'm now getting invitations through networking, as we've been describing. I'm now getting invitations from colleges and universities to teach courses in kinds of corporate communications, technical communications, science writing, writing for government, things like that, because I've touched all these kinds of things in a 27-year career. Mine is a bit of a bass-backwards kind of approach, but that also goes to demonstrate whatever your path takes, you may find that you are hitting a wall or circumstances of change where you have to reinvent yourself. And then you may think, well, what do I do? Do I earn another degree? What is that degree in? And that requires a fair bit of homework. It may be presented to you. For me, it was an extension of my undergraduate minor, which was science and society here at York. My major was professional writing. But what that did is I married my past with the possibilities of the future and some of the opportunities I knew were being the feelers that were going all along, because at nearly 50, my career trajectory is different than someone who's in the mid to late 20s, for example, who might be considering the master's degree, and then you have X number of years you want to go build your career and raise a family and that type of thing. So each circumstance is unique, but certainly a master's degree is not going to hurt you, and it takes a year, maybe 2 years, depending on whether you go on the part-time or full-time. I would say if you have an opportunity to get it now, because once you get on in life and start working, the opportunity to get that degree might be much more difficult because of life circumstances. Life gets in the way of career paths sometimes. career gets in the way of some of your life goals. So you have to, it's all about balancing all these things. So if you have an opportunity and time to do it now, do it now. But if you're working at a large corporation, you said Purolator or DHL or something, FedEx, you might have the opportunity to see what their job boards are like, what their communications people are like, what their needs are going forward, and see if you have an opportunity to get your foot in the door there or in a parallel company. It doesn't matter if it's a competitor, but all they care about is, do you have a skill set and do you know our kind of business? That might be the edge you get just to get your toe in the door.
Thank you. Ruth?
Oh, okay, just quickly, don't rule out college as well, postgraduate diploma programs for some more practical, hands-on training. I'm of two worlds. I don't have a master's degree. I'm probably the only one up here that doesn't have that. I have a college diploma. I did some postgraduate work or education after my college diploma. There weren't the options that there are now. You have to really see what's good for you. I know Leia took the master's in Comm Cult here at York. It's an excellent program. I think it really, you know, leverages you. But you've really got to look, again, I say look yourself in the mirror and see what it is that you really want to do and what's best for you. And don't rule out the community college postgrads.
Thank you. Robin?
I think I would agree. I certainly believe in lifelong learning. I think it's never a waste of time, whether it's a course that's a self-interest, whether it's a master's degree, whether a certificate program, continuing education. You are always going to find an opportunity to use those skills or connect with people or find a way to incorporate that knowledge into your working life. It doesn't hurt on a resume to have, you look motivated if you have continued a path of learning. So certainly education is never going to be a waste. I mean, if you can sort of streamline it, if you have if you were going into a profession like law or medicine where, it can be more focused, but there's certainly, it's never going to be a time that you won't be able to use towards something at some point in your life, and sometimes, as Edward says, in the most unexpected ways. So I would encourage you to continue with your education.
Leia, do you want to wrap up for us?
Yeah, sure. I find that sometimes we too, like in my case, I decided to do my master's degree because besides the fact that I would like to develop a little bit more my critical skills, and I can say without any doubt that I became much more critical towards my reading, my understanding. I became a little bit more complex towards my master's degree. It was a good break for me. So I don't know exactly why you are thinking about the master's degree right now. It's in order to take a break and get some education, go back to the workforce in your field, or it's because you want to really go back to school. So in any case, I strongly advise you to do a master's degree, as actually each person has in some extent brought a good point of it. Dr. Allan brought the idea of you for sure you're going to make more money if you have a master's degree. I struggled towards 4 years as a part-time international student, working a part-time basis. They kind of all know me a little bit here at York University because it was a struggle. But as soon as I'm done, I have friends who have been working for the past 4 years. I got a job in which they have been working, and I have been working as a part-time with survival jobs. And I finished my master's degree with a better salary. Like, I got a job. They have been for 4 years in the workforce in a formal environment, and I got a better salary. At the same time, that's a reality, that's for sure. At the same time, I find myself in communications much more ready to write and bring new things to the reader. It doesn't matter who is the reader, but I find that I became more demanding towards my readers, more demanding towards my readings, and of course more demanding to write. And I think that you are in a time and age in which you should do it, because at some point you're not going to be able to do, and then 20 years ahead of you, the workforce is going to be even more demanding, and a master's degree is not an asset anymore. So
I think the consensus is that education is always a great thing. It's always an asset. Lifelong learning is definitely something that everyone should pursue. Having said that, though, I think most, or if not all, of our panelists started out without a graduate degree, and you got into communications, through your passion, through your interest, through networking, through all of those things, and then as you progress through your career, you started to learn, to pick up courses, and some of you decided to pursue further education at the graduate level. So it's not that, so if you're at the undergraduate level at this point, it's not, I don't think the message is that there's no hope for you in terms of jobs. And our panelists can attest quite well to the fact that they broke into the field quite well, but certainly increased education can help you. Okay, thank you. All right, so I think this concludes our formal Q&A session. And our intention today was really to give you a little bit of insight into the field of communications, and hopefully by hearing our panelists' stories, be inspired and a little bit, and get a sort of maybe get a bit of more ideas about what you can do moving forward with your own career journey. I want to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules to come in and talk to us. So please, everyone, round of applause.